Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, taking a look at the DRF race of the day for Thursday, August the 15th. It's race number 7 at Saratoga. Let's take a peek at the field for the Violette Stakes, going a mile and a 16th on the Mellon Turf Course. These are for New York bred 3-year-olds, 8 in the body of the race, 9, 10 entered main track only. 3-1 on the 6, Russian Realm, Mike. Russian Realm trying turf for the first time, has some pedigree. Always tough to take a relatively short price on a horse doing something new.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this horse could get bet there just because he just earned an 88 buyer on dirt in his last start, and maybe that'll be enough to just pull a bunch of money his way. I do think he's a good dirt horse. Boy, as the favorite in this race, first time on the turf, I'd probably be looking elsewhere.
Let's take a peek at the Timeform US pace projector. They have the 4, Courtly Banker, expected to be on the lead, as he was in his second lifetime start, where he took the field a long way before finishing third. He's still a maiden after 4 lifetime starts. It'll be interesting the tactics that Kendrick Carmouche utilizes aboard the 3 Instatic, who is stretching out in distance, draws inside Courtly Banker, and might be able to get to the front.
Yeah, Instamatic certainly has enough speed if they want to get aggressive. I mean, he hasn't been a speed horse necessarily in any of his races, but you expect him to sort of be forward here as he stretches out third off the layoff. The pace I thought was a little bit hard to decipher yet. I'm really not sure how it's really going to play out, but I didn't see a ton of pace in this race.
I wonder if BD Saints, the 5, can get a lot closer to the pace. That could be the key. Elysian Meadows, the number 8, is the fastest Timeform US late pace rating and was compromised badly in his 1 turf start to date. But we'll kick off the analysis with the number 1, Easy Roll. I really like the way this horse polished off his 2-year-old campaign. It was a maiden race at Aqueduct. He sat an inside-out trip. He followed some really live cover from the runner-up on the turn, got to the outside, and got it done. Maybe he's racing himself back into shape. This will be his 4th start of the year. His first 2 races were solid against some older horses, earning some respectable figures. He got wired last time, but he didn't run well. What happened?
I don't know. If you like him in this race, I guess that's the race that you sort of have to try to decide what happened there. Can you excuse it? And can you just sort of put a line through it and go back to him? And here, I'm glad that you brought up his 2-year-old races, Dan, because to me, I thought he ran well in both of his turf starts as a 2-year-old. And now we're sort of into midway through August now as a 3-year-old. And they're still, to me, the 2 best races that he's run. I don't really like any of his races so far this year. And I know he ran fine off the layoff, and he ran fine 2 starts back as well. But I didn't really see excuses for him in those races. I didn't think that he did anything particularly special. And he was awful last time. I know he's better than that, but he was terrible last time. He did no running.
The leader of this division, the Big Torpedo's not in here. He's going to try open company later in the Saratoga meet, and that's good news for the 2, Fidelé Caillou, who chased the Big Torpedo in his last 2 races. Prior to that, he ran just fine in the Open Jersey Derby 3-back. Last time out, the Big Torpedo got to the front, and he carved out some legitimate fractions on this field. Fidelé Caillou couldn't keep up on the second turn. I was a little bit disappointed with his finish or lack thereof.
Yeah, I didn't love his last race either, and I did think that he would run better. I mean, it's his sprint. When they cut him back 2 back, he had plenty of excuses in that race. He ran fine, but I did think that he would run better last time when they stretched it back out to a mile, and he just didn't do that. He doesn't have to deal with the Big Torpedo in here. I liked his Tampa form a lot. I thought his Jersey Derby was really good. And I don't like his last 2 races all that much. But this horse, he's all right. And he might be an okay price in this race. Then I'll try to get him in there somewhere, but I don't like him as much as I did in his last 2 starts.
The 3 Instamatic has been favored in all 5 starts. Maybe he won't go favored in this race. He's coming into the race in good form, beating first level allowance types in this race, going 3/4 of a mile. I thought he did some good things in here because he was 4 wide on the backstretch through the turn, still on the outside in the stretch, and he runs right by the leaders and just holds on after chasing those fast internal splits. I thought it was a good effort. Now he's going to stretch back out in distance. He's raced once around 2 turns in his career, and he was a solid second after breaking from a tough outside post.
Yeah, I actually thought he ran pretty well when they stretched him out last November, Dan. He just, for whatever reason, they put him up close to the pace, but they just sort of sat 3 wide around the track that day. I don't know why they didn't try to get over and save any ground. And he got a little tired at the end, but I thought he ran fine in there. He's come back as a new gelding, as a 3-year-old, and I think he's really improved. His return from the layoff was really good. I thought that race we just watched was even more impressive than the 76 buyer might indicate, because that pace was fast. He moved early into it, and he just kept going. And I feel like that suggests that he will get at least this far.
Although Courtly Banker, the number 4, is still a maid and he's earned a couple of stakes placings, has never been off the board, and doesn't have to deal with the big torpedo as he did in his last 2 races. I thought he ran fine sprinting 2 starts back. He sort of pressed the third place finisher's pace, eventually got the better of that horse. And last time out, he broke through the gate prior to the start. Maybe that took something out of him. And as you can see, he's just on a hard chase after a better horse from about the 5/16 pole to here, and eventually he'll just hold second.
He got a great trip in this race, and he's just not as good as the big torpedo who dominated on the lead, but he's clearly second best. That's Fiddle Caillou, who's sort of running on late there to get up for third, but he's no factor in this race. Courtly Banker wasn't much of a factor either, Dan. He was just clearly second best off of a good trip. Not way against him. I would just wait and see what kind of price he is, because I don't think I'd go too short on this horse.
The Courtly Banker has the tactical speed, as we saw in the pace projector, to get close to the pace, and just finished ahead of 3 of these horses, including the 5 BD Saints, a horse that we always had a little bit of a thing for. And maybe he had another excuse last time out, although tiring badly in the stretch. If you look at the fractions that the big torpedo set, 23-4, 22-4, 23-3, I just think that's too much for a horse like BD Saints to be chasing, and eventually he paid the price. He might not have to go as fast early to get good position here, and there's no big torpedoes he's chasing.
I think that's a really good point. I mean, overall, maybe you could just say he was disappointing last time, but he was on top of a pretty strong pace, and he paid the price in there. And you saw that the horses that ran second and third just sort of sat back a little bit and made runs late. I still think he's better on turf than he is on dirt, and he's run some good dirt races, but I think he's a better turf horse, and I think he's better than his last race, and he's going to be a price in here. Again, I'm going to use this horse.
First time turf for the 6, Russian Realm, 3-1 on the morning line by Rock Solid Constitution. 12% winners with first time turf runners. The dam was stakes placed on the turf, so there is some pedigree here. And I think a lot of folks are simply going to look at that big 88 buyer speed figure on dirt last time out and gravitate. And why not? If he is able to transfer that form to turf, he wins. That's still an if, and you're going to have to take a relatively short price.
Exactly. That's the only logical way to look at it. There is certainly a chance that he is going to be fine with this surface, which he's got enough pedigree to handle it. He's clearly a talented horse. I think he's run well in all 3 of his starts to this point. And if he transfers that form over to the turf, then he's going to be really hard to beat in this race. It's your call how short a price you want to take on him.
The 7 Cable Ready was a stakes winner on dirt at Finger Lakes last year at 2. I thought he tried so hard 3 starts back in the Pennine Ridge, a race that he was never going to win against open graded stakes competition. He really fought hard till about the 16th pole, and I wonder if that race really took the starch out of him, because his 2 subsequent starts against New York Reds have just not been very pretty.
Yeah, he just hasn't really run them. I'm with you. I thought his turf debut was pretty good, albeit with a perfect trip to just get up to win. And then his Pennine Ridge was sort of an underrated performance. I mean, you could be forgiving, I guess, of the Cab Calloway last time with, again, the big torpedo just dominating on the lead in there. What happened 2 starts back? They put him with some older horses, Dan. He didn't run at all.
The 8 is Elysian Meadows, and Bill Mott treated this New York bred like he was a really good horse early in his career, running him in the Sam F. Davis, running him in the Wood Memorial, and then he ran him on turf for the first time in the Woodhaven. And take a look at your free Formulator past performances. Click on the short comment. You get to see the trip, because maybe this horse wasn't going to win, but he was also just forced 9 wide turning into the stretch and still showed some late interest. I think it was a deceptively good performance that at least showed he could handle the surface. And it was a race that produced a couple of solid next out winners, including the big torpedo. They ran him on dirt his last 2. They're fine. I think there's still something here if you give him some pace.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with all that stuff. It's after the turf race they got him back in with New York Reds, and he ran fine in both of those races, even though he didn't win or even really come that close to winning. This horse has talent. He's got turf pedigree. The only turf start, I'm with you. It sort of suggests that he does handle the surface, and now he's back in a much better spot for this horse. I feel like he's another horse. I'll wait and see what kind of price he is, Dan, because he is a horse, even on the main track, trips are really important to him. So we'll see if he can get one in this race, but he's a dangerous horse in here.
The 9 and the 10 are entered main track only, with the former, the number 9, Doc Sullivan, bringing the better buyer speed figures to the table and will likely be a shorter price. Before we take a look at our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for the latest DRF videos. Let's take a look at our top picks for the Rick Violette Stakes. I'm going with a little bit of a price for Easy Roll, just based on some of his races at 2 and the fact that he earned some figures in his first 2 starts this year. It's hard to justify the last race. I can't do it, but I'm hoping maybe it was just an aberration. The price will be there. I want to use Easy Roll. I want to use Courtly Banker. I want to use Elysian Meadows in multiple race wagers, and you're going to try to stop me with the forwardly placed Instamatic.
Yeah, I like this horse. I get that he's stretching out in distance here. Maybe he'll just turn out to be a sprinter, but that's not how I'm looking at him, Dan. I feel like he is going to get this far. I like both of his races so far as a 3-year-old. I think he's really interesting stretching out here, and I do think he's going to be a fair price in this race.
Mike's going 3, 8, 2, and 5. I'm going 1, 4, 2, and 8 in the Rick Violette, the DRF race of the day for Thursday at Saratoga. It's the 7th, and we kick off a 50-cent pick 4. Best of luck.